Hey, my Liptons. So I wanted to come in here and do a film review. I obviously didn't give y'all the heads up that I'm gonna be doing this film review because it was something that I guess you could say it came out the blue a few weeks ago. So if y'all don't know, I have, I think I've discussed it here and there that, I've been on this like sort of like a guilty pleasure, true crime, just watching true crime documentaries, watching true crime films, little documentaries on Netflix, some of them on the ID Discovery channel. I've always been into true crime, but it's like, lately I feel like I've been binge watching a bunch of like true crime episodes and documentaries on Netflix or on uh on the ID Discovery channel. So for me personally, this being on my radar, The Woman of the Hour, and this film being based on a true story, of course, like I was gonna catch up to it. Um, so let me just say this before I get into it. When this first came, to my radar, it was actually a couple of weeks ago. So I think I was on like the Discussing Film Twitter account, and they were just talking about how, the upcoming films that are coming out either on Netflix or in theatrical releases and so forth. And I saw that Annakendrick was going to be directing a film about a serial killer. And I was like, oh, what serial killer? Because I'm thinking like, the main ones, like, I don't know, like Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, Richard Ramirez. Like, I was thinking those kinds. But they said that her first directorial debut was going to be on a serial killer named Rodney Alcala. I think that's how you say his name. Now, let me just say this. First things first, like I had absolutely no clue about Rodney Alcala. I had no clue about the dating game killer. That's what they call him in the mainstream media. So I didn't, as far as like in the news wise, like I didn't hear too much about it. Even in pop culture wise, like, and I discussed this in the past too, where we are in an era where it's like we do tend to somewhat romanticize true crime. We're very, it's giving a little bit fetishization, and maybe in a way too, I'm also in that boat where it's just like, yeah, it's like give me the true crime documentaries, give me the movies, like I'm here for it because it's to me. I also look at it as a form, even though it shouldn't be, but unfortunately, it is a form of entertainment too that we watch because it's interesting. It's like, damn, like how can somebody do this? But for the most part, most of the serial killers that if you're gonna ask the normal everyday casual fan like me or somebody else about, okay, can you name like the top five serial killers in American history, like at least from my end, I would have never thought of the dating game killer because I never heard of him. Usually, like most of the time, what pop culture talks about, or like they do movies or shows, a lot of documentaries about are either Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, um, who else? Hell, recently, I feel like only recently we just recently started talking about Richard Ramirez, but Richard Ramirez, BTK, um, just a bunch of others that I'm forgetting currently, but those are like the top three: Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, BTK, Richard Ramirez, and who else? I feel like I'm missing one more serial killer. There's another one too. I just can't remember. Oh, uh, uh, the clown face one, the one with the clown. John Wayne Gacy. He's the other one that people discuss in the media. So it's like those are top five, for at least for me, from my knowledge as a casual fan. So I'm gonna be honest with you. I had no idea about this dating game killer, Rodney Akala. Another serial killer I had absolutely no clue about. And this is just me going on a tangent here. Is the Casanova uh serial killer, which, and I think there's a reason why too, because of the times and because of like how it happened and the fact that like he's never really been in prison for his crimes like that because he died quite frankly right after his crimes and everything that happened. But yeah, the Casanova killer, is another one too that I just recently found out about, dating game killer. So it's like, I'm finding out about these other serial killers that I had absolutely no clue about, by watching either Netflix or watching the ID Discovery channel. So I was like, okay, Anna Kendrick, let's see what you're about to do. So, she was doing this film. So I was like, okay, I think I'm going to be tuned in. So before I actually watched this film, before this film even came out, I went to go watch a documentary on YouTube about this Rodney Alcala, the dating game killer. So because I wanted to get a backstory. So it's like I watched like a few episodes on YouTube. Then I went to the ID channel. I think People Magazine also did like a documentary on him on the ID Discovery channel. So I watched it and I was like, okay, like this guy was horrible. He was a terrible person. Like the fire is hot. He's in hell. Like this is crazy. So, and the reason why they call this quote unquote Rodney Akala guy the dating game killer is because the arrogance. Y'all need to go watch like a documentary on him before. I would say go watch the documentary first. Any documentary on this guy, either on YouTube or go to the ID Discovery channel. This guy was out here just slaying women, and I even think boys too, if I'm not mistaken. I think there were also a few boys that were also some of his victims, but mostly women and girls. Like those were most of his victims. Just out here slaying women and girls, like slipping through the justice system, like, and then like I think towards like the late 70s was it? Mind you, he already had a record at that point. He already had a record. He already been convicted for molesting and attempting to kill a child, a 12-year-old. Like he already had the record. And in the late 70s, he ended up appearing on a show called The Dating Game. And apparently it was a popular show back in I think late 60s, throughout the 70s, going on to some early 80s and so forth. And even some celebrities has even showed up on this game show. So it was really popular back then. So this serial killer ends up appearing on an episode of The Dating Game, and it's just like, and obviously watching in hindsight and knowing that this guy is a actual serial killer and seeing him participate in the dating game show, it's just like it's like you cannot make this stuff up. You cannot make this stuff up. And it also makes me think of like, why, like, so nobody did their vetting? Like there was no, I would like to think that there was vetting back then in the freaking 70s on vetting their contestants that come on shows or any show for that matter. It's like, y'all weren't out here vetting y'all contestants? Like, how the hell did this even happen? How did y'all get this guy? This guy just showed up. Y'all didn't do no background check. Y'all didn't do nothing. Y'all just allowed this guy to show up on y'all show and making sexually innuendos, lewd jokes, and all this extra shit. I was just like, oh my goodness. So basically, that's where he gets his name from. That's where he gets the dating game killer, serial killer name from, is because he appeared on that dating show. Even though, like, obviously throughout what he was doing for the past decade was just like whatever, but like, it was like a one-time thing. That's why they gave him that name. But this guy, so Anna Kendrick ended up, I guess this is her first directorial debut, so she was like, I want to make a film about this, but she wanted to make this film, I guess, more so about the victim's perspective. But I have a few issues though, that I will say, and I also have an article here by Vulture, because I tend to agree with what Vulture had to say about the film and their little critiques and some of the things that happen in this film. So before I even get to it, like, let me just say this. Overall, I give this film that I saw on Netflix, I give it a B minus. Yeah, like a B minus. Like it was a nice B minus for Anna Kendrick. Like I felt like, definitely, I will say this, it definitely didn't glorify any like violence. There wasn't like any glorification of violence, any glorification of gore, anything like that, sexual, no, like it wasn't like that. And of course, like the film also centered around Anna Kendrick's character, whose name was Cheryl Bradshaw, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and in the film, I did wish that, like, I don't know what I really wanted at this, because it's like, the show is based on a serial killer, but you're also talking about this aspiring actress who is Cheryl Bradshaw, that's having a tough time breaking into Hollywood. But it's like she went on this dating show to get some form of spotlight or notoriety. And unfortunately, and good thing for her, she ends up going on a date with this guy just one time, and she got the creeps from him and ended up running away from him and not never seeing him again. So, thank God that she ended up surviving. But it's also like, I feel like the Cheryl Bradshaw character and what Anna Kendrick played didn't really move me in any which way, because I feel like we didn't get a thorough background story about Cheryl Bradshaw. Like, I felt like it was just like, boom, she moved to LA, she wants to become an actress, blah blah blah. So it's just like, okay, let's just put you on the dating show so that you can the dating game show, so that you can get a little bit of spotlight here, and maybe you can make it in Hollywood. But it's just like, and then you just happen to run into a serial killer, so it's just like all the like, it's crazy. But at the same time, they also do the flashbacks to some of the killings that some of the victims that Rodney Alcala was, got in contact with, who he killed and so forth. Um and obviously, like I said, in those instances, for me personally, I didn't feel like it was a glorification of the violence to me. And I think that there are going to be some people, especially the ones, on social media and stuff like that, that feel like, there is this sort of like glorification thing that's happening with a lot of these true crime documentaries, true crime movies. Like, just to give a cute example, Ryan Murphy has been catching a lot of strays out here. And I will say this to and fairly so, with Ryan Murphy, because Ryan Murphy, he's been on some bullshit, especially with what's been going on with this Menendez brothers thing. Like, he definitely deserves to get dropped. But, people feel like he glorifies violence. He tends to sensationalize a lot of these things with these serial killers. So it's like, I can see that. So I can see someone where they feel like there's too much glorification and sensationalization with these stories, watching Woman of the Hour and say, you know what, this was like a stable film about a serial killer, but yet centered around the victims. Somewhat some centered around the victims too. You know what I mean? So it's like, it gave a balance of all three sides of this. It gave a balance of Anna Kendrick's character, Cheryl Bradshaw, a little bit on the victims that Rodney Alcala killed. But then again, too, if you really think about it, we didn't get really no background on Rodney Alcala. How did it get to this point? Like, we didn't get anything on his childhood or anything like that. Like, what made him tick, really? We didn't get any of that. And I think I watched an interview with Anna Kendrick when she was on the Clay Clarkson show, and she was just like, I didn't want it to be centered around him. I wanted it to be centered around the victims and honoring the victims and blah, blah. So he's like, in that point, I kind of understand. But I think that, unfortunately, on a entertainment basis standpoint, it's no shade. If she wanted this to be a nice A, she also should have added in a little bit more on Rodney Alcala's, background, childhood. I don't know, like, what was the first crime? Like, it needed a little bit more of that. So, that's what I would say. But, this film, it had a few flashbacks. It had a few of his victims in this film that, he unfortunately encountered and killed. Also, I will say this though, in real life, because I was just like, I did watch a few clips of the episode where Anna Kendrick's character was on The Dating Game. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all, and then there's probably gonna be some people that might have an issue with the way the scene was portrayed with Cheryl Bradshaw in the Woman of the Hour movie, because it's two completely different. Like, it's like in the real life episode of The Dating Game, Cheryl, like that whole episode. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Like, the Dating Game show was cringy as hell. Like, and not even in a good way. Like, there's some things that are cringy, I feel like, in a good way, or cringy or corny in a good way. But then there's some things that are corny in a bad way. And this the Dating Game show, the real life episode, the real life Cheryl and the contestants that were on that show, Rodney Akala, all of them, it was cringy and corny in a bad way. Okay, because if y'all go watch back that episode on YouTube, and it's on YouTube, by the way, if y'all guys want to go see it, the way that Cheryl was articulating her words, the way she was moving around, the way she was saying it, it made me cringe so bad. Y'all, I had to pause it at certain moments in the video, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this used to be entertainment. I cannot believe this used to be. It was so dramatic, so over the top with some of the questions. Some of the sexual innuendos were so corny. And it was just like, in a way, I'm happy that in the Woman of the Hour film, in Anna Kendrick's film, she kind of made it a little bit more realistic of the, maybe about the way we talk a little bit more better. Because I feel like if she would have went word for word, bar for bar, like how it was in the Dating Game episode when Rodney Akala's crazy ass was on there along with Cheryl Bradshaw, I would have been cringing. I would have been cringing. At least, I mean, I'm happy. Of course, some things have to be switched up a little bit, just um for dramatic purposes, but also just to make sure the audience is also feeling a little bit more. It's like it's more, we're more able to digest it, because y'all, the Dating Game, that show in real life, like, it was so bad. It was so bad. Like, I don't know how people found that entertaining back in the 70s. It was cringy. It was weird. I understand, like, it was like to find love and to find your mate, find your partner, find your boyfriend. It's like, in a way, the Dating Game was basically like how Love is Blind is now. You see how Love is Blind is like a new thing, the Bachelorette, the Bachelor. The Dating Game was the OG of that, but the OG of that in a cringy, corny way, basically. So, but yeah, like, I'm happy that, Anna Kendrick kind of switched it up a little bit, add a little bit more sauce, add a little bit more spice to that scene, because that episode with Rodney Akala and Cheryl Bradshaw was cringy. It was cringy. It was cringy. It was cringy. So, also another thing too, which I didn't understand. I don't know why they switched, because in the Dating Game, the real life Dating Game episode, Rodney Akala was the first contestant, because there was 3 men. So it was Rodney Akala, the Dating Game killer, and 2 other men. But Rodney Akala was the first contestant, and then the 2 other men were number 2, number 3. But in the movie, Rodney Akala was number 3, and then the 2 men were first and second. So it was just like, okay. And then, obviously, like I said, they switched up a lot of what Cheryl Bradshaw actually said in this movie, which I kind of agree with. Also, I will say this too, and there's no shade to Anna Kendrick. Like, I get that, this is her, in a way, this is her film, and this is her directorial debut. But we also have to be honest too. Like, she looks absolutely nothing like Cheryl Bradshaw. And there's no shade. Like, if you guys look back at Cheryl Bradshaw, go look at the episode on YouTube. And even I feel like they made no attempts. Like, when it comes to like the hair, it was too flat. Like, I feel like they should have made it more 70s. Like, the outfit, the dress that she's wearing here, like, it was not the same as the episode. Like, I don't know. I just felt like Anna Kendrick wanted to direct, but also wanted to star in it. But I felt like, but maybe that's also some of the narcissism with some of these actors, actresses. Is like, oh, okay, well, I directed this, I need to star in it. But I feel like she also should have probably got another actress to do the Cheryl Bradshaw role. I don't know, just someone that looks like the character, at least. Because I felt like Anna Kendrick looked absolutely nothing like her. And then plus, they didn't, for me personally, they didn't add anything as far as like costuming and hair. Like, it felt very modern, and I felt like they didn't look 70s-ish as much when it came to the Cheryl Bradshaw character. So I was just like, okay, well, it is what it is. But But yeah, but really that's my take. And I felt like, the guy that played Rodney Akala, for the most part, I guess you can say yes, he did kind of look like Rodney Akala. I think that he did a good job with the character. I thought that he was scary and frightening and weird. And portrayed the devil in this, for the most part, at least, because like I said before, this film is not really too much centered around him and his story. Really is just like, okay, this is him. He commits the crime. He goes on dating show. He tries to lure lure Cheryl Bradshaw, but she ends up getting away from him. So it's which is a good thing. But yeah, like, and then they give us some flashbacks on like maybe two or three of the crimes that he has done in the past. That But yes, make sure y'all subscribe to my channel. Okay, let's get up to 10,000. I mean, oh my God. Well, yes, that is the goal, to get up to 10,000 subscribers. But right now, let's do the short goal, which is to get up to 1,000 subscribers. Okay, we are almost there. Okay, make sure y'all subscribe. If y'all want to see any of my past film reviews, those are also up on my channel. Okay, I have my playlist right here. Make sure y'all subscribe. Okay, we're almost there, 1,000 subscribers, so let's get to that goal. But yes, I do want to read this article by Vulture, because I feel like this kind of sums up my thoughts about the Woman of the Hour film, personally, for me. So this is by Vulture. This I'm just gonna read, skim through this. Cheryl Bradshaw, a Columbia grad whom we first meet during what appears to be a botched audition. The year is 1978. Cheryl's Hollywood days in Hollywood are not doing well. Blah 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 blah. Okay. So it says here, Rodney Akala, played by Daniel um Zovato. I think that's how you say his last name, whom we've already met in the film's opening scene. On set in 1977, he strangles a girl. Y'all can go watch it. He appears in the FBI's 10 most wanted list, and did 2 stints in prison. This is why I like 2 stints in prison. He popped up on the legendary dating show, and this is why I'm like, I don't know how that show did not vet. Like, they didn't do no background checks, no vetting. Like, I don't know, maybe that wasn't a thing back in the late 70s. I don't know. So I'm just gonna skip around here and just get to towards the end. Um, it says here, unfortunately, as it plays out on screen, the woman of the hour isn't quite as compelling as one might hope. Structuring the film around the dating game, where Cheryl is treated largely as a piece of meat by everyone, including the smug host, played with oily, soothing sleaze, excuse me, by Tony Hale, um, might make for an intriguing thematic ploy, but it also settles the picture into a route dry cadence as the story starts to feel over determined. Even those unfamiliar with how Akala's appearance on the dating game turned out in real life can probably see some of the story beats coming. The circular the circular structure, as it may make thematic sense, also prevents cohesion. We watch scenes from the life of a serial killer without really understanding much about him, which I agree with. Nor do we ultimately learn much about Cheryl herself, which I also agree with, about whom relatively little is known in real life. So if y'all don't know like, I try to get some research on the Cheryl Bradshaw to see if she did any interviews after she found out that Rodney Akala was like a serial killer, and I didn't see too much. So I think she was gone. Like, after the date, like, she was done with him. Like, she was just like, I'm leaving LA, I'm going back to the Midwest. The whole film feels a little bit careful, composed with also more than a little academic. It winds up existing mostly as a series of well-staged scenes, all wrapped up in a bow that tells us the world is not safe out there. In our current serial killer and true crime obsessed media landscape, That'll get some clicks, but it won't provide much new insight. And I agree with that 1,000%. Like I said, we are in a new, like, there is this like true crime fetishization that we have going on right now in 2024. Like, you have like, murder mystery makeup. Like, you have, there's a bunch of YouTube channels that are based on, discussing about true crime and telling about these like serial killers, these killers, and so forth. Like, you have Ryan Murphy at this point. He might end up becoming a billionaire like by the end of the year, going on to next year, with due to like this whole monster series that he's been doing for Netflix. Like, first it was the what was it, Ted Bundy? I think he's the one that did that one. He did the Jeffrey Dahmer one. Now he did the Menendez brothers one. As much controversy as it causes, it's still bringing in the numbers. So it's just like, and then on top of that, Netflix ends up dropping like these tapes right after when Ryan Murphy does these the monster series, and then people are even more intrigued to see what these brothers has to say when what these killers had to say when they were in prison. So it's just like, it just adds more intrigue into that. So it's just like, we are in this era where it's just like, oh my god, like serial killer fetishization. And it's like, we're ready to watch anything and everything, either on YouTube or on Netflix or ID Discovery. And it's like, okay, like, I think Anna Kendrick sees that and wanted to tap into that, but it's just like, the movie was, it was cool, like a B, like I said, B minus. I give it a B minus. I don't think it was bad, but at the same time, I felt like, it was cool. Like, it was wrapped up in a bow, as this Vulture article states, and she gave it to us on a cute little Christmas day. Like, it's just like, it's a comfy movie. Thank God it wasn't released on theaters. I think this is definitely a Netflix film, a streaming service film. I'm glad that it was put there, because I think a lot of people would have probably been disappointed had this been a theatrical release, because they probably wanted something a little bit more from it. Um, in a weird way, she needed a little bit more of that Ryan Murphy sauce onto this movie, a little bit more controversy with it. So um, yeah, I think the movie was cool for the most part. Like, it was cool. It was alright. It was alright. But I do think that, like, if y'all want more background and information about this whole Rodney Akala, the dating game killer, and so forth, I suggest y'all go watch either some YouTubers to let them explain this whole dating game killer guy. Watch it on ABC. ABC did a documentary about him, which is also on YouTube. And I also suggest y'all guys go watch the documentary, or either on the ID Discovery channel. People Magazine Investigates did a episode about him in their documentary. So it's like, just to give more information, because there's like way, and on top of that, like, because of course they can't really put too much in the film, because they got to keep the film a little bit more condensed and, on a timely matter. But this guy was out here just wreaking havoc for like a decade or so, like since like the late 60s. Like, he was, since the late 60s going on to like the early 80s, like, this guy was just like being a complete menace to society. And he finally got captured, and he is dead, by the way. Thank God, hallelujah. He is dead. He died in prison. But yes, he was just someone, he was not a good person at all, at all. So if y'all want any more information on that, I suggest y'all guys go watch those documentaries, because it gives a little bit more information about, who this guy was, what he did, all the crimes that he did, and how really our justice system, like, just let this guy slide so many times with this, with the bail and the bond and all this crap. It's just like, this guy was able to just slip out through the cracks for so long, and he was able to kill so many people. But yeah, that was just my thoughts on that, and about this film, Anna Kendrick's directorial debut. I thought it was cool. Like I said, a B minus. Um, but that was just my thoughts on that. Y'all guys, I want you guys think in the comment section below. Do you guys think y'all gonna tune in to The Woman of the Hour? It is a comfy film. I suggest you guys watch it on a weekend. You know, when you're in one of those moods, dim lights, you get some popcorn, get some snacks, watch the film. It's one of those things. It's not something where it's like it's must see TV, but it's if you're feeling like, oh, I want to watch something, I want to watch, I'm kind of bored. Let me watch something cool or something. This is one of those films for that. So. But yeah, y'all guys, so much you guys stick in the comment section below. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Let's get up to 1,000 subscribers. We are almost there. Thank y'all so much, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.